dirigirá un mensaje. Muy buenas noches, amigas y amigos de los medios de comunicación. Les agradezco su presencia en este lugar al final de varios días, largos e intensos días de negociación y de trabajo que ustedes han venido siguiendo con esmero. Es quizá la primera vez que jefes de Estado y de Gobierno, representantes de varias naciones, hemos trabajado prácticamente 24 horas seguidas, con algunos intervalos, para alcanzar un acuerdo que me parece es importante comentar. Todos sabíamos que
important to comment. We all knew that we would come across a complex scenario given the different positions of 192 countries that would take part in this conference.
la agenda vinculada
Given the fact, the agenda considered in our fight against climate change, this program gave way to long, complicated, intense negotiations where Mexico held a relevant role to help us establish financial short and mid-term mechanisms that are necessary to comply with the commitments and actions agreed.
nuevamente todo parece indicar que
Fortunately, everything seems to tell us that after several moments of a tremendous tension where we were about to lack an agreement, tonight the conference will embrace the Copenhagen Accord that considers global targets of mitigation, commitments of reduction of emissions of the developed countries, actions strengthened in the developed countries where among them Mexico have embraced unilateral commitments. We also acknowledge the need to promote the adoption into most vulnerable countries and the role that different actions that have not yet been considered so far, such as the support to the forest sector, the implementations of capacities, resources to public and private funds for mitigation actions. We also established important economic commitments on behalf of the developed nations in order to support the agreements that were here embraced. I can also express with pleasure that the accord includes the adoption of funds, the Green Copenhagen Fund that Mexico has been insisting and promoting to ensure the funding in the mid and long term. The position of Mexico in this negotiation and the efforts that we have been carrying out in our country to move forward in our fight against climate change have also been broadly recognized. I know, ladies and gentlemen, that this accord is far from what we expected and from what the world needs, even though there have been tremendous committed efforts of the different countries here present with this issue. Nevertheless, the advancements achieved must be the basis of a future agreement that will enable us to reach the targets of the reduction of emissions that the scientific community tells us that they are needed for the viability of our planet. I am fully convinced that mankind is capable of taking difficult decisions that are absolutely necessary. I also consider that as a government we need to learn the lessons that the Copenhagen experience leaves for us within this week. I'm fully convinced that only this way we can take this process to the expectations of our peoples. We need to establish new formulas and new rules that will enable us to make coincidence take place above differences, to understand that the rule of consensus may not be necessarily a permanent veto rule to the agreements and the will of the people and the governments. On the other hand, I must tell you that today also, or within this very long journey and day, Mexico has been appointed as the host country of the COP16 conference on behalf of the Mexican people. We embrace this responsibility with pride and with an enormous compromise and commitment. The advancements achieved here, where Denmark and its government were so dedicated to achieve, will have to be elaborated in the following months to ensure the success of COP16, and that there we will be able to agree in achieving a legally binding instrument. I think that we have to launch the necessary negotiations immediately, and that we must do this taking into consideration that mankind is calling for concrete agreements of solid and robust advancements that will allow us to fight in this area. We will be the hosts of the world in the next conference of the parties, and we are totally decided to perform a central role in the definition of a new accord that will allow us to extend the scale of mitigation and adaptation at the global level. Thank you very much for your attention.